What is up, everybody? I'm NoLucksGiven, and today is Mother's Day. So because of that special occasion, I thought I would showcase a game with Grandmother as the hero of choice in Storybook Brawl. And Grandmother is a hero that I don't often feature on this channel because there's no real hero power in the early game, or so you would think. And it's honestly not a hero that I even play that often, but I wanted to get a Grandmother game or two in so that I'd have something to showcase for the holiday today. So I say, or so you'd think, and Grandmother is the only hero that starts with 50 health. And I think that's kind of her hero power. And that, at the very least, means that you can cast 5 more forbidden fruits than the rest of the lobby, just to put it in a simple way. And that health is also a nice little padding. We're going to be able to get off to a pretty strong start here thanks to the forbidden fruit, and then picking up a Cindy and a Wizard's Familiar will be strong enough to win this fight with the extra baby root that we got from the forbidden fruit there. But the other thing that having 10 extra health also allows you to do is try some things out. I don't really know the best way to put this, but basically the fact that you have that cushion, you have that padding, and that allows you to play a little bit riskier and potentially pursue some angles that you might not otherwise be willing to. So Polywoggle, I think, is a great example of this. You can try to make Polywoggle work, and if you take a little bit more damage than another hero might to get Polywoggle off the ground, that's okay because you have that padding, and then once you are off the ground, you'll be able to do something a lot more powerful with said Polywoggle. So that is what we are going to be able to do now. We'll have a little bit more room to experiment, and we'll also experiment with Water Wraith. Just showed him off in a video 2 days ago, but Water Wraith is a brand new character, and I think there are some interesting things with Water Wraith that I figure out in this video too. First thing is supporting a Water Wraith with Baby Root can be good. Give it a little bit more survivability in that first turn when you pick it up, because it doesn't have much starting health. Now, it's not going to work out here. Our Water Wraith is going to get attacked immediately, and then we're going to get crushed by Mrs. Claus. So a little bit unfortunate, but the ideas are still here. Even with taking a bunch of damage this turn, we go down to 39. So we are still the lobby leader. This is basically everybody else's starting health, and that's really the true hidden hero power of Grandmother, is just getting a little bit more cushion to start the game off with. And I'm going to wind up casting a Witch's Brew there on the Water Wraith, just to give it a little bit more oomph. We saw that in my previous Water Wraith video. A Potion Master used some spells on it, kind of to get it kick-started, and I think that that can also just be a good idea. We are going to be playing up against Sadrak here. I also lock onto Queen of Hearts. I'm not sure that's super necessary, but we give it a go. Polywoggle is going to get the Slay, so that is really good, and Water Wraith is even going to have a little bit more survivability because of that Witch's Brew, but we are going to lose to my opponent's 10-1 Sherwood Sure Shot in the back there. Polywoggle winds up turning into a Feasting Dragon, which isn't a super powerful unit, but it can potentially set us up for some nice things going forward. So not too shabby. And then we get to pick up a Wicked Witch support here, which I definitely like a little bit better than the Baby Root, just to give us one more evil unit for the Queen of Hearts. And now I think that we are probably looking good to win this for glory. I think that we are quite strong. We are up against the lobby leader at this point, though, the Snow Angel. And we're not super strong on this turn, but we do have like 4 decently sized units with the Feasting Dragon, the Vampire, the Water Wraith, and then eventually the Queen of Hearts. And also we've got a lot of different scaling in this comp with Vampire, Water Wraith, and then also potentially Feasting Dragon if those things are able to slay. So looks like things are going pretty well here, and my opponent doesn't actually have too much going on. So it looks like we will be walking away with a win. We'll also be able to get a slay on Vampire, 2 deaths on the Water Wraith, and 2 slays on the Feasting Dragon, plus that extra unit there from the 4 Glory. So honestly, this combat went pretty well. We have a few different options for things that we can look at this turn with just like slay angles and things like that. The Feasting Dragon gets a little bit awkward once you cut the Mad Mim, and the Water Wraith obviously doesn't want to be in position 4, and there's a lot of puzzling to figure out here in terms of how to fit every unit on the board that you might want to. But we are going to wind up picking up the Shadow Assassin, and then we find another Water Wraith, already a 5/5, because we have been able to scale a little bit, and I'm going to wind up supporting those Water Wraiths, and I am also going to just hope that the Feasting Dragon is able to slay, but unfortunately it isn't able to. Mad Mim wouldn't have helped it out though either way, so not a huge deal. We are going to get slays with basically everything else. It's just so hard to fit everything in when you want to play supports, you want to play Queen of Hearts, and you want to play Water Wraiths, and Riverwash Mermaid also contributes to some weird board positions, but we get to do a lot this turn. First thing, I'm going to Mix-a-Wizzle the Mad Mim. I do that because I've got a bunch of pairs of 3-cost units already, and we could potentially flip the Mad Mim into another 3-cost unit. But then I'm going to pick up Lightning Dragon, which is a great unit to go along with the Riverwash Mermaid, and I find out it is a pretty great unit to go along with Water Wraith. And we're going to be making pretty good use of Lightning Dragons and Water Wraiths in this video. Looks like I'm still going to play Feasting Dragon for another second, but eventually I'll cut that too and just kind of come up with a neat plan here. I should also swap my dragons, but again, we're just kind of figuring out all of these new units and how they work their way into these comps here. So a little bit awkward on this turn. We will wind up taking a little bit more damage, but hey, that is what Grandmother is all about. Interestingly, my opponent also had Cursed Throne there, so kind of cool. But this is what I was getting at. Now we are going to be able to combine Water Wraith, definitely snapping up Horn of Olympus. That's going to solve a lot of our positioning issues, and it is also going to make it so that, so one of the things I talked about with Water Wraith is that positioning is really tricky because you typically want to support things on both sides of the Water Wraith. And that gets really tricky to do because it just means that you have to pick one of them, and then you also have to support the Water Wraith if you want both of those things pumping up the Water Wraith. So what we are going to be able to do now is have Lightning Dragons on both sides of Water Wraith. They will both be pumped up by the Riverwash Mermaid, and then they will both immediately die and give additional stats to Water Wraith. So I think this is a really, really good setup now. I think that we are really strong, and we took some damage. We had to find our way here, but now we are here, and I think that we are going to have a really easy time on basically the rest of this lobby. We are scaling really hard with the Shadow Assassin as well, and the Water Wraiths and the Lightning Dragons. Because of Bad Moon, everything is just getting really crazy, and let's throw a Baba Yaga into that mix. I don't particularly love the Vampire here, but I think that we are going to wind up keeping it for a second nonetheless, and I guess I'll just sell out of that Feasting Dragon at this point. And from here, I'm going to move the Shadow Assassin back in and have that be a unit that we scale a little bit. I think that our Shadow Assassin's big enough that we can scale it. It gets a little bit awkward because our Lightning Dragons will theoretically attack and die, and then our Shadow Assassin is 50-50 to get attacked into, though we're getting to a point where our Lightning Dragons might even survive after attacking a little bit, and ultimately I think that that is just going to be the strongest thing to scale, because when you have Horn of Olympus, generally you don't want non-Baba Yaga range, or you don't want non-support units in your backline. You want to make full use of the Horn of Olympus. So going to move Baba Yaga to the back. Lightning Dragons are going to be able to take out all of my opponent's units, and then the Shadow Assassin does get attacked into, but honestly, we are looking still big enough here. Water Wraith goes down, unfortunately, to the Falling Stars, so we don't get to keep that, and that winds up being a little bit awkward, but now we are just going to be rolling for Baba Yaga's Riverwash Mermaids, and then eventually also Lancelot. And there we go, there's Lance. We could try to slot that in, but honestly, it's so much smaller than everything else that it's really tough to put it in. Like, we could put it in here, sell 2 things. I'm also eyeing up this Cat's Call because I was thinking that would be good with Water Wraith, but it actually just doesn't work with him. So I'm going to wind up actually just declining to make that play that I was talking about, and then instead picking up a Medusa. I feel like that is a good one, especially with Sadrak. I want to backline my Shadow Assassin because they're going to get first attack, and if these Lightning Dragons die, my Shadow Assassin could get attacked into easily, as it would have there, and that would be a little bit of an annoyance. Our Lightning Dragons are now big enough that they are going to out-survive the Water Wraith, so that's pretty funny. We'll also be able to pick up a triple of Lightning Dragon here, which just gets to be an absolutely massive unit. And I think from here, Fool's Gold is the pick, and the reason for that is we don't really need to pick up Sky Castle, because we already have the Horn of Olympus. Now, after picking that up, I wind up rolling into an Evil Eye by tripling my Baba Yagas, so it didn't really matter. We're not going to wind up keeping that treasure regardless, but I thought that that was potentially an angle worth pursuing, and it's not going to be a huge deal that we lost it. Just looking for another Riverwatch Mermaid now to add to this comp, and we're basically full build. We're just going to scale these random units here, and Lightning Dragon is now at the point where it's not going to die. It gets lucky enough to avoid the Soul Tack, and yeah, everything is just slaying and able to get absolutely massive right now because we've got the Riverwash, Baba, Evil Eye, and then also a Bad Moon thrown in here. So all of our units are going to start getting pretty big, and this is the point where, like, this is why I didn't pick up Lancelot, and we could have certainly utilized Lancelot. It would get +5/+5. Once we hit level 6, we'll look at another game that features that kind of interaction after this one. But basically, I just thought it was hard to find the space for all of these units. I definitely want to find the space for a Riverwash Mermaid, though. That is going to be really strong. And then otherwise, I'm really just looking for Jormungand. And I think that the rest of my gold should just be spent looking for that. I do consider putting in Vampire because it will scale a little bit faster than the Water Wraith now that my units aren't dying, but I am ultimately just going to decide to keep the Water Wraith in, and we roll for Jormungand and find it, and next I'm going to cut Water Wraith for Jormungand, and then I'm basically full build at this point. And Shadow Assassin will be growing, and it'll eventually give itself enough health. You can see just how many stats we get out of that after one slay. Shadow Assassin is able to survive a Lancelot, so my units are getting quite large now. We are definitely full build. So the next thing to do is probably add a Jormungand onto this board, and the only question is, do we want to cut Water Wraith or do we want to cut this Medusa? And the Medusa is unupgraded and a little bit smaller, but I think that just that scam potential is just going to be a little bit stronger for us. We could throw a Lancelot onto this board. It would immediately get to 22 attack, but I'm looking at the lobby here. First off, we've got a Sadrak in the lobby that could be strong and will get first attack and could potentially slay against our Lancelot. And for that reason, I just don't want to mess around with it. I think that we've already got good enough units, and we're only going to need to play this game for 1 or 2 more turns, that it's really just not worth messing around with. And for that reason, yeah, we're just gonna stick with these ones. And I think that, you know, we've got a ranged unit, we've got a flying unit, and then we've got this type of scamming unit. And we will get scammed ourselves a little bit here by playing up against a Pigomorph and a Soul Tack. So that's going to protect against 2 different slays, but Medusa does get to slay. I think my opponent attacked into my Pigomorphed unit, so that really helped. And now Jormungand is going to be getting a little bit of extra stats there as well. So yeah, looking really, really strong. We are going to lose our Riverwash Mermaids before we wind up attacking again, though Jormungand will still grow from the Bad Moon, so that'll get a little bit of extra stats, and then we'll take out the Sadrak. So yeah, pretty close to the game ending here. This is probably potentially the last turn even, as we see that the Pied Piper actually lost to the Ghost. So we only need to hit them for 15 damage, and we haven't played them in a few turns, but they lost to the Ghost, so they can't be that strong, because I think we beat the Ghost. I think we're probably the person that took the Ghost out of the lobby, so this game's almost over. And we did it basically without a hero power. This wasn't really the best Grandmother game in that we didn't really make use of either of our hero powers, and for that reason, I told you I'm going to share another clip with you after this one. And yeah, this was really just getting strong with a slay. We didn't really need the +5/+5 once we hit level 6. That was never relevant, but we were definitely able to crush this lobby, and I don't think they're going to be able to kill any of our units, which means that we are going to be hitting them for more than 15 and winning the game. So we'll see how big everything can get here by the end of it, but that is going to be a win with Grandmother, which is pretty sweet. So let's see. Yeah, everything pretty big here by the end of it. We've got Lightning Dragons up with 330 health and some other large units as well, so pretty nice. So this game was pretty interesting. I slay with Polywoggle again and get a Copycat, which I Mix-a-Wizzle into a Rotten Apple Tree. Then I roll for a True Love's Kiss and wind up finding some XP. And XP is obviously really good on Grandmother, so I wind up locking that. Now, actually, I think what I should have done here is just cast the XP, because you can actually win a combat with just Rotten Applewood and some ranged units, because everything attacks into the Rotten Applewood and then your ranged units finish everything off. And that's basically what winds up happening here, is just this Sherwood Sure Shot and Shadow Assassin take everything out, and this just has too much health for my opponent to get through. So that was kind of a missed opportunity. I just wound up locking the XP spell, and then I don't win it on this turn, but we still have a little bit more XP than the rest of the lobby. I'll wind up taking a little bit more damage, just trying to play strong stuff for as much as I can. I play Romeo and Juliet for a little bit before transitioning into just strong stuff with Gingerbread Knight, and I'm about to triple the Gingerbread Knight here when I kind of come up with a silly idea. The Sporko obviously could activate the Lancelot this turn, but I just thought this was interesting. I can also take Turkish Delight, give everything +5/+5, and activate Lancelot that way. Is it a better play? Not really sure, but I thought it was at least interesting to look at. Kind of funny that this game is also a Slay game. I don't think that Slay is particularly good on Grandmother or bad on Grandmother, but maybe I just think it's a good comp right now. Obviously, the +5/+5 could potentially help you Slay, though I don't think that that is exactly why I play Slay in this game. Maybe it's just a comp that I really enjoy, but this one is a little bit more chaotic than the previous one, and everything doesn't quite come together. We're actually going to wind up getting a loss here to Mad Catter, the same character that denied us that extra XP early on, and that is also why I'm showing this clip off, because we are making use of Grandmother's other hero power. We go down to 5 HP, so even though we don't really have a hero power, no other hero could have won us this game because we wouldn't have any health left, so we would have just died at this point. I locked onto that Jormungand and I picked that up, and I'm not rocking with any River Wash Mermaids. You can see that I've got the Sky Castle. At this point, it's probably too hard to even try to fit in a River Wash Mermaid, so I'm just running Lightning Dragon in slot 1. So that way Lancelot gets the first attack, and then Lance can hopefully scale a little bit against this ghost to a point where Jormungand is then going to be able to carry us for the rest of the combat. And that's kind of the idea, and it works out well enough. We are able to survive with this 5 HP. I'll jump ahead a little bit. Other people take out the Mad Catter for us, and we are able to make it to the finals with this board. Just the Lance slightly scaled up a little bit. Everything else remains basically the same. We are going to get first attack thanks to Hermes Magic Beans, and we are up against a Summons comp, which is really, really good for a Slay comp. Our Lightning Dragon hit the one thing that it could because the other two things were protected by Soul Tack, so that was great, but we weren't trying to slay with Lightning Dragon. We were just trying to play an extra unit and allow Lance to attack. We don't know what is in their croc yet, so we cannot claim victory just yet. It's going to be a Hippocampus, which gets pretty large thanks to my opponent's Bearstain, but my Jormungand is even bigger, and that's going to allow us to take another win there with Grandmother. Kind of cool showing off the Magic Beans in this one. I think can be really sweet with the Slay comps, but that is going to be it for me today. Thank you guys very much for watching. Happy Mother's Day. I'm NoLucksGiven. Peace.